Well, that's not a good look. Hello. Ignore my room. I am a retired college student. Welcome back to my channel. I haven't uploaded any sort of video like this since October. Well, technically my last video was like a week ago, but that wasn't really a video. That was just musical theatre compilation. I know. Where have I been? That doesn't matter right now. All right, I know I've been away for like forever. That will be answered in a different video because the day I'm uploading this will mark my 2-year anniversary of being diagnosed with Crohn's. And last year I did absolutely nothing. I feel like the 1-year anniversary is probably one of the biggest of all. So this year I'm actually doing something. So what's been going on with me? Why have I disappeared? That's a separate video, but a lot of cool stuff. And it kind of comes into this video because I did have a Crohn's attack, which is partly the reason why nothing got uploaded. That's not the main reason. The main reason has nothing to do with Crohn's. I can't get my hair up. Okay, so I think one of the reasons I look like absolute shit right now is because the light is just coming down on me. Let's just do it like this. Not that it helps. Okay, I haven't videoed in so long, can you tell? Crohn's, you know? Okay, so let's do it like this, because that's some nice ambience, right? Right? It's a vibe. What was the plan for this again? I think the most important thing about this video is going through the diagnosis process, because I feel like that's something I haven't talked about. And that wasn't something that I enjoyed very much, let's put it that way. Let me go get my blog up. Yes, I still have that blog. Not that I actually put anything on there. Yeah, I really should actually do something with that website. Also, just while I'm getting everything up, a lot has changed. I have a girlfriend now. Hi. I don't know if she's gonna watch this, but she does. Hi. She has somehow stopped me from sitting normally. I cannot sit normally, so you know what? We're gonna blame her. Wix. Yes, I use Wix. Can you tell? Yes, you can, because I don't have the money to, you know, get rid of the watermarks. I can't afford that. You think I'm rich? No. Life in the shitter. I'm so creative with the names. I don't want a custom domain because I can't afford a custom domain. You really? Fuck off. I just want, why can't I just look at the website, man? Why can't I just look at the website? I don't want to edit the website, I just want to look at it. Let's start from the very, very beginning where I first started showing symptoms. So that would have been 6 months before my diagnosis in September of 2020. I started showing symptoms with my first ever period cramps. Period cramps. I'd only gotten my periods March of 2020. So I've never really had period cramps before. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between period cramps or anything else. These cramps were so bad I actually ended up missing dance, and if you know me, you know dance is my life, and I had been dancing from the age of 3. 5 months before my diagnosis, which was October of 2020, I suffered these cramps again. That's fun. This time I counted that they carried on for an extra 11 days after my period, but at the time I didn't think anything of it because I was an idiot. But my face actually started becoming more defined, like slim, and you know, that's pretty cool. I find that pretty snazzy. I found it very snazzy at the time. Now, 4 months before my diagnosis in November, these cramps happened again. Now this time the cramps were a lot worse, and this is gonna get fun. It's gonna get very fun very quickly. I started to notice they were only really, like, they were coming from all around, but they were prominently, they were just focusing, yeah, we'll go with that word, mainly on my right side, right abdomen side, but again, I didn't think anything of it. Now this is where it gets interesting. TMI, I guess. My stool, let's put it that way, let's use fancy medical terms, my shit, had started to come quite loose. We're just gonna put it that way. Whenever I needed the toilet, I would know because I'd start cramping those. My cheekbones really started to show through, like they were snatched, man. I do kind of miss that, I'm not gonna lie, because at this point I had a jawline. I missed the jawline. Okay, now 3 months before my diagnosis, December. It was December, right? December 2020. I had cramps at all times, and whenever I needed the toilet, I had no warning. So I would just... And I became quite nauseous quite easily now as well, and I'd started to notice that I hadn't really grown my breasts much. My previous past self's words, not mine. And my waist was, again, pretty small. So, like, by this point, I was probably between a size 4 and a size 6. I was tiny. And I had lost weight without doing any work, which I found really cool in a society where looks are everything and being tiny is the, you know, standard for women, that was awesome. It just kind of sucks that 14-year-old me was focusing so much on her weight. But at the same time, I clearly didn't focus enough because I couldn't see anything wrong with that. Nope, that's just society's standards coming through. 2 months before my diagnosis, which was January 2021, I had no energy. I forgot what was going on with the lockdowns, phase 4 lockdown, you know, when we had that massive lockdown again. So I couldn't participate in any online lessons. I would click on, then go to sleep. Mum was getting annoyed at me. I was getting annoyed with myself. Hang on, I'm missing out all this education. We both thought it could be depression or some sort of mental health issue, but clearly it wasn't. These cramps had been getting a lot worse and I could barely eat anything without having to run to the toilet. I'd lost pretty much all my appetite. I started to get a whole load of mouth ulcers. I would regularly get severe head rush whenever I stood up and like black vision. So that happened every time I stood up at this point. And at one point I had been sitting down for so long and it was in the dark. I stood up and just into the door frame and passed out. I don't think it was for 30 seconds. It was like probably more like 10. No one was around there. I just kind of flopped. I do remember just waking up going, what the hell? I was getting extremely sweaty at night. It's called night sweats, creative name. And I became afraid to use the hot water bottle, which has been helping relieve the cramps, because I didn't want to have to deal with the night sweats. Mum had a phone call with a doctor, which resulted in me being on the pill. I didn't think there was anything wrong. I thought it was a bug, because me being me, I was like, huh, fun. This doesn't mean anything. 1 month before my diagnosis, which was in February. Something was definitely wrong, I can tell you that much. I had my first accident. Yeah, being 14 and shitting yourself. I'm not going to go into any more details. So yeah, that was kind of the end of it. Mum had been trying to convince me to see a doctor. I was like, no way, I don't want to deal with this. And then that was kind of what convinced me to go see a doctor, because I was like, that was embarrassing. I don't want that to happen again. And at this point, I started to be kept up at night by these cramps, but I also had no energy. Come daytime, I'd have no energy either, because I had no energy anyways. Then the whole not sleeping thing. So I was doing literally nothing. I was just, you know, I was out of it. I was in bed, I was bedridden, man. I mean, I went out every now and then, but you know. I still had night sweats, which again doesn't help with the energy thing. So nighttime, cramping, toilet dashes, night sweats, just all of it, you know. It wasn't fun and it's not something we want. I had to face my first doctor's appointment because what happened, it was pancake day. I remember this specifically. Like I said, it was the day after pancake day because we had pancake day. Then it was the day after, yeah. So it was somewhere around pancake day because we had pancakes. Pancakes was an important part of this. When you're up all night with all this, you need distractions. I remember watching the entirety of Series of Unfortunate Events, or majority of it, you know. And then I remember we went to Asda, I think this might have been the day before pancake day, I don't know. We got pancake stuff and then we had pancakes. I remember we had pancakes. And then it was after the pancakes when I went back to sleep and then I got woken up by, I think it was either my sister or brother going, hey, you're going to the doctor's. I was like, hey, fuck off. And they're like, no, you're going to the doctor's. I was like, oh, okay. So I had my first doctor's appointment and then I got told I had to have a blood test. This was my first ever blood test and I was terrified. Like I'd been through jabs, I was fine with jabs on the car journey to the hospital. I literally planned out a funeral. I genuinely thought I was going to die. Not because of the blood test, I just thought the blood test would show something that would. My mum got a phone call which she got the blood test results for, and then I was given an emergency doctor's appointment. And so basically the phone call with the blood test showed that my inflammation markers were up. Here's the fun bit. I had vitamin D, iron and calcium deficiencies on top. That's not fun. That's not good. That's not healthy. Yeah, so I had an emergency doctor's appointment. He was like, hey, I'm going to call up. You go to hospital. So I had an emergency hospital appointment. I was being referred to a different hospital. They have an amazing gastroenterology team. And I was like, yeah, okay, done. So then the next day, I remember this specifically because I've written an entire paragraph and I do remember this relatively well. But I woke up with severe cramps. I mean, probably the worst cramps I really had in that time, like around that time. I ran to the toilet. There was nothing. I just noticed that my period had started. I just kind of sat there for about 20 minutes and I got up and went back to bed. I could not sleep. I was really struggling. I went to go back to the toilet, but mum was in the toilet, so I went downstairs. The only way I can describe this is weak. Like I felt back upstairs. I was just kind of walking up and down not knowing what to do because I was in a bad way, man. I was shaky, I was in severe pain and I was panicking by this point because I was like, what is this? This is horrible. I ended up literally just curling into a ball outside the toilet door, which was also technically outside my room, and the pain literally only got worse from there. The cramps actually ended up spreading to my back, which is called referred pain apparently according to my mum. I have this thing that I call the anxiety hand, which turns on every now and then, but I can basically recreate it for you. It's like that. Imagining that but you can't walk and it's all over your body and you're in severe pain. You know, you kind of get it. No matter what position I was in, I could not find any relief. I got up and curled up in bed, same way. When I heard her leave, I went and sat in the toilet again. But by this point, I was feeling extremely nauseous from the pain and the shakiness. So I went over and bent over the toilet. I cannot remember what position I was in when Mum came into the toilet. But by this point, I was almost in tears, which, you know, I probably should have been crying long before that. But for me, I don't really cry over pain. Mum kind of just took me back into my room and sat there with me until I fell asleep. Now, she gave me meds, I think. I imagine I at least took paracetamol. She also offered to call an ambulance because it was that bad, but me being me, I declined. March 4th, yeah, I've got dates. So March 4th, 2021, I'd begun to feel nauseous and I had a really high pulse. Mum had been monitoring it each night as I'd be checking on my watch. And I also had a fever. I can't actually remember this now. March the 8th, 2021, I had my first appointment with them, which is where I was told the one thing I had been dreading: you're going to have a colonoscopy on Saturdays. March 8th was a Monday, colonoscopy was Saturday. A few things went through my mind at this point. Fuck was the main one. Now the next one was Saturday is really, really soon. It usually takes forever to put, like, you know, to place these things. Like, for example, when I was told I was going to have an MRI, that took like at least a month type thing. So I was getting a bit panicky. I went, is it actually this serious? And my main thought was, what if it is colon cancer? Because by this point, this was turning into a cancer scare. You know, I used a big fancy word just now, a colonoscopy. So what is a colonoscopy? There is a little thin flexible tube with a little camera on top, and they shove it up your arse and they go and have a look around your intestines and bowels. Here's where it gets fun. What is the prep for a colonoscopy? Because obviously you've got to prep for it. This starts 2 days prior to the procedure. You start by eating extremely bland foods, so you get a list of saying what's okay to eat and what's not okay to eat. If you're not sure and it's not on the list, just don't eat it. That's the, like, don't risk it, man. It's not worth it. Just go with it, alright? That wasn't really an issue for me though. A day before the procedure, you are given a few laxatives to take. Now, my one was Pickle-Lax. Lovely drug. You are given a few laxatives and you're not actually allowed to eat that day at all, aside from like a little bit of breakfast. Around 9 AM, my mum came in with this cup. I had been dreading this by this point because I did not want to take a laxative. One of those ones that you pour into water, you dissolve it and you drink it. And please bear in mind, I was extremely lethargic by this point and sitting up was a struggle for me. I sniffed it. I, by this point, knew that I was going to be sick because of this and I refused to drink it. I did not want to drink it. She got me to take a sip and it was, I can only describe it as all down the hill from there. There was a lot of crying from my side. After drinking it, I fell asleep, but not for long. Because about maybe an hour, maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour and 45 minutes, I woke up to go to the toilet. I'm not going to describe how it was. In 15 minutes of sitting on the toilet, letting the bowels clear out, I felt nauseous. And I vomited all over myself and all over the floor. After about a minute of me just kind of sitting there in shock and confusion, and I don't know, at this point it was just a weird time of my life. Start calling for the best person I know, my mother. Then calls my sister, who was 24 at the time, to sit and wait with me while she calls the doctor. Me and my sister are sitting there. She's helped me get out the top because, again, I feel very weak. And she wraps a towel around me, helps me downstairs to the living room, and I curl up. And I overhear my mum on the phone to the doctor, or whoever it was, I'm just going to call him the doctor. They say they want me in for the night. I turn on the shower and I actually curl up and fall asleep on the bathroom floor. About half an hour goes by, my sister comes to check on me and she helps me get into the shower and stays there with the curtain drawn, obviously, to make sure I'm okay, because I was not okay. I literally almost passed out in the shower. She kind of I was like, Nick, I can't do this, I'm gonna pass out. To go to the children's ward. Now I'm carrying my hospital bag, a blanket, which is my favourite blanket, which I bring everywhere. Like, if I'm going overnight, I will probably bring it with me. And as I was walking, I literally felt like my legs would give out at any minute. My arms were extremely weak. My mum was also carrying a bunch of stuff, so she couldn't help. Very shaky. It felt like I had brittle limbs, like I could collapse at any minute, like my legs would give out, my arms would fall off. And I'm directed to a bed in a communal ward, and I have a cannula put in, which is my first of many. I actually still have a scar from that cannula, so scar warning. After they get that cannula in, they put me on a drip because, like I said, there was nothing in me, so I hadn't been getting any nutrients. And when that starts to happen, after about 10 minutes, I feel like a million times better because, you know, nutrients are in me. Wow! That evening, I'm given a different laxative. I'm not gonna lie, it tasted really good. like it tasted like, you know, cow pole, and everyone loves cow pole. And then it worked really well as long as I drank a load of water, and I didn't even realise it had been working type thing. It was amazing. The next morning I'm woken up to change into a hospital gown. From there I was told to stay in bed while they pushed me down to the anaesthetic room. As I am underage, I am put under a general further colonoscopy. It did feel really awkward being pushed around like that because I would have rather had a wheelchair or just walked myself down. And after about half an hour of waiting, I'm dragged into a different room where they tell me what's going to happen. They held an oxygen mask over my face and started pushing this like white cream through my cannula, which is this one. And it was quite funny because my vision started zooming in and out, and I vividly remember saying, I guess this is what being high feels like, before passing out. Which is the most me thing I think I could have said at that point. It felt very sudden when I woke up, like I can't remember anything that happened in that, but I was in a different room. First thing I did was find a door. Me and my mum are left alone for a while, and she tells me that I have a little thing called Crohn's disease, and that will stay in hospital for a little while. I obviously cried, but not because I had a lifelong disease, not because I was just told I have a lifelong disease, but because we'd been in hospital for Mother's Day, which meant she wasn't going to get her presents. I was on anaesthetic, leave me alone. But yeah, so that's kind of my diagnosis process. I'm probably going to do a different video on what it's actually like to live with Crohn's on a daily, maybe to a day in my life. More of a case of just actually how my friendships and relationships are, because you wouldn't think that Crohn's, a chronic illness, would affect relationships as much as it does. Anyways, you really do learn who your true friends are. Let's just put it that way. Still stings. But yes, it's a case of just going with it and seeing what happens, I guess. Probably do a different video of how to support someone who's being diagnosed with a chronic illness or has a chronic illness, because I mean, not me, but they do need all the support they can get. I say that, it's not me asking for support, I'm fine. That's kind of the Crohn story there. I'll do somewhere else. Thanks for watching. Love you all. See you later. Bye. Oh, well, there.